Kitchen Rush. This is a cooperative game played in real time. It is a worker placement where the workers are represented by centimers, so when you place a centimer on a space on the board, you can resolve the action, but then the timer is stuck there until it is done, and then you can move it to the next location. In Kitchen Rush, the players will cooperate to make a restaurant work, so the restaurant can make a lot of money and be successful and become popular and famous and all the good stuff. Now, I played this game with 2, 3, and 4 players, which are the available number of players, the allowed number of players. I tried to play the game solitaire, and it just really doesn't work that way. You need multiple players to place the centimers. First, just because you need to have multiple brains working on the task at the same time, and because part of the fun is precisely for the chaos that comes as people are reaching in and moving components around and getting in each other's way and yelling, "Hey, I need some pepper! Hey, go and buy some food! Hey, we need more customers, let somebody in," and so on and so forth. The game is also follows a tutorial system, a tutorial mode. It can be played in 8 different ways, corresponding to 8 different scenarios that are presented in the rule book, from the easiest scenario, which is an intro scenario really, to the most complicated one. And when you get to the last one, there really is a lot going on, a lot of actions. Matter of fact, the board changes because depending on the scenario, you will use a different side of these tiles, and so as you can see, different action spaces are activated. And if you play the game gradually, you can get to a really complicated scenario and play it with young children. If you play them gradually, you just add one rule every time and they can play. I played this game with my daughters that are currently 10 and 9, but also with a visiting relative, a niece of mine, my favorite niece. Yeah, I'm sorry for all the other ones who don't exist, by the way, but my favorite niece whatsoever, and she's 7. And she's not, she's not a strong gamer. Her favorite game is Uno. She hasn't been trained in a gaming family, and yet we started from the first scenario. She loved it, and we went all the way to scenario number 8, and that's the most complicated game she ever played, and she also likes it. Incidentally, my daughter Luisa and my favorite niece will be special guests in the conclusions of this video. So I'm gonna give you in this video the general idea, and I'm gonna some of the actions. I'm gonna show some of the actions that will be unlocked as the game progresses. I'm not gonna show you the whole thing. You will have 1 or 2 timers, 1 timer in the basic intro scenario and 2 timers in the other ones, and that's really what you need. You need 2 timers for the game to be fun. Otherwise, you place a timer there, you take that action, and then you're stuck there. As opposed to I take that action, then I place this one here, and by the time I have readjusted the components, done what I need to do, briefly discuss what to do with the other players, that will almost be done, and I'll go to the next action. We are gonna have these absolutely adorable wooden components representing different kinds of food. We have 2 storage rooms where you place the food, one here and one here in the early scenarios. Later we unlock another storage room here in which we place only bread and pasta, making cooking more complicated because now it takes more actions to pick up ingredients. We have plates in different shapes, and there is a dirty side in some scenarios. Once you finish cooking and a shift is over, then you place it there, and somebody needs to go and wash those dishes for those those plates to be available again. Yes, the game is played in real time. 4 minutes is the standard time, 5 minutes if you're playing family mode, and that's how we played it standard. But of course, there is no restaurant without customers. And as you can see here, there are cards with different designs. And again, you add them as you go. In the intro scenario, you only have these customers here. Then you start having challenging customers that also want spices. But the general idea is that each card will tell you the ingredients that the customer, well, the dish that the customer wants, the ingredients that are necessary. the spices, if any, and then how long it needs to cook. This one needs to be cooked once. This dish here, more challenging, needs to be cooked 3 times. So you shuffle these cards, and at the beginning of the game, again, first you prepare the deck based on which kind of customers you're gonna have in that scenario, and then you place 2 cards in those 2 slots there. Maybe it should give you a general sense, a general view of the board. I just realized I didn't do that. But again, these are double-sided, and so you use different sides for each of these 8 sections of the board depending on the scenario. There we have the area where we place, where we sit the customers that we have let in, that we allowed in our fine restaurant. So you make a plan with your teammates, and then you start the timer, and you gotta go. The objective will be defined by the scenario. In the early scenario, you just need to cook a certain number of meals. In later scenarios, you need to make enough money. In later still, you need to make money and also gain reputation, which is by serving meals to these customers that will write reviews on their phones while they're still at the restaurant. And you need to collect a certain number of stars by cooking meals for these people. Those stars represent reputation. However, there is a risk. If you start cooking a meal for one of these review writing customers and you fail to do it by the end of the shift, then you will lose reputation. The basic scenario and some of the early scenarios only last 1 shift, which is simply 1 4-minute or 5-minute session. And sometimes that means the setting up the game will take longer than the game itself. Later scenarios have 2 shifts, so you finish 1 shift, all the plays that were used become dirty and need to be washed, and then you play a 2nd shift. And then you have later scenarios still in which you have 4 shifts, and that's of course when the game, when it becomes real. So, what are the actions? Some actions you will always have, some again unlocked as the scenarios progress. One thing that you always have is to let people in. When you place a timer there, you draw up to 2 cards and you place them in available slots here. In later scenarios, there's an option of throwing out customers, but I don't like to do that because it's rude, and also that thematically doesn't make a lot of sense that you would throw out customers to protect your reputation. So if that customer, if you don't want to start a meal for them, risking your reputation, you throw them out. How does that not affect your reputation? When you place a timer in one of these sections, then when you're taking an order. To take an order, you take a card available there. You take a plate of the same shape. If one is not available, you can go one side up. So instead of a triangle, you can use a circle. Instead of a circle, a square. And instead of a square, a long plate. But we had one available. Once you take the order and you take the corresponding plate, you place them next to your personal board. Everybody has one. You take the plate and you place it in the 0 band of your personal board, and that's it for that. But then you need to perform other actions to actually cook the meal. By placing a timer there, you can take ingredients. Again, ingredients will have been stored there at the beginning of the game in the 2 storage rooms following instructions. And sometimes you have the problem, oh my gosh, cheese is only in that storage room, but the carrots are here and I need both. Now I need to do 2 trips. So you want to coordinate, hey people, don't take all the meat or the cheese from this room, so I can take everything that they need in 1 trip. And so suppose I need to collect 2 meals, 2 meat, 1 pasta, and 2 cheese. They are here. And so I place them on the plate right there. In some scenarios, you will also have spices, as indicated by these cubes. Then you can take the action of going to the greenhouse to collect the spices. The spices are stored inside this bag, which is annoyingly narrow and deep, and that's by design because it's hard then to go through it and and look for the right spices. Also, this is all the spice. At the beginning of the scenario, you will set up the spice bag with only some spices there, which means they will run out. So you may run out of food, you may run out of spices, then you need to buy that stuff, which you do by going to that space. This is the only action space that does not have circles, because any number of sand timers can be placed here, and when you go there, you can collect food and you can collect spices following certain rules, certain restrictions, of course. Once we have all the ingredients that we need, it's time to cook them. Not every meal needs to be cooked. Some can be served cold, but this one, for example, need to be cooked once. Once I place a timer there, then I can move my dish one band down. Now, I cannot start cooking a meal with all the ingredients because that would be just morally wrong. But I could start cooking a meal and then add the spices later, even at the last second during cooking. But basically, I'm trying to create a situation here where the plate of the right shape, or one size up, with the right components and the right spices is in the right cooking band. At that point, that counts as complete. In the early scenarios, that's enough. In later scenarios, that's when you collect coin. For example, by cooking that meal correctly, I collect the 3 coins. By cooking for this VIP customer here who wants a dish and a side dish, then I collect that many coins and also that amount of reputation, and there is a board where I keep track of the reputation I collected. By collecting reputation, I can also collect the bonuses. So, again, a lot of different play modes, but the general idea remains that you need to let customers in, take their order, collect the ingredients, cook them, and possibly also add some spices to them. Between shifts, you dump all the ingredients back to the supply. These dishes become dirty, and that's when somebody needs to clean them. By taking the cleaning dishes action, you can move up to 3 dirty dishes there. Plus, again, other rules that unlock as the scenarios go. In some scenarios, you need to pay your timers, and that's really cool. If you don't pay them, you lose them for the following phases of the scenario because they go on strike, and that makes sense. That this is a game that shows some serious work ethics, teaches work ethics to kids. Don't work if they don't pay you. So, this is the general idea. Select a scenario. Play with your friends, try to accomplish objectives of the scenario. The objectives will be to cook food, and how many steps it takes to do that depends on the scenario, which can be, again, more or less complex depending on your taste and depending on the scenario that you have selected. So I'm here with my daughter and with my niece, and we're gonna tell about Kitchen Rush. So, young friends, what do you like the most about Kitchen Rush?
Well, I like how you can start with a very basic scenario that is very simple, but a little bit challenging. But then you can add more scenarios, like spices, dishes, 2 timers, buying the food, buying the spices. I like how you can make it harder, and if you want, you can match rules to make it you get your own level.
I like Kitchen Rush because it's time sensitive, and you don't have to do anything, just pay attention to the game, and then you just and there's just stuff shooting everywhere, and you need to watch your timer like a hawk.
That's true. I like both of them.
Timed. It takes 5 minutes if you're playing with kids, 4.5 minutes if you're playing with just adults.
And if you're playing 2 shifts in some of the later scenarios, then you have 4 and 4 or 5 and 5, but you also have a lot more stuff that you're trying to accomplish, so it remains challenging. But yeah, I like both of the things that you said. I like how you can start easy and then get very complicated. I mean, I think by the end of the last scenario, that may just have been the most complicated game that you ever played, right? When you have to buy food and spices and pay people and 4 shifts. Wasn't that one of the most complicated games that you played?
And the blacksmith, you need to hire the locksmith.
The locksmith,
You have to hire
Yeah.
the mechanic, and it just takes more turns. You need reputation points, spices. It just takes so long.
But exactly. But my point is that since you're learning gradually, you can learn a game that's very complicated, and you can still play it with young people.
And I like the many levels. Yeah, like if we started at the 8th scenario, we would have lost almost every single time because you can't start at the highest level. You have to start at the low level. So it's a lot easier. It's a really complicated game in the end, but you have played each part kind of separately, adding each part after you've beaten the last part.
And what did you both think about the cooperative element? The fact that you're playing with your relatives and friends instead of against each other?
Well, it is actually good because in the kitchen you don't want to be competitive in the kitchen because there's a lot less space to cook. You are fighting over the patrons, spices, food. You need to do everything on your own. It's a lot harder. And the first level wouldn't work. Since in the first level, every person has to make 2 dishes.
What do you think about the cooperation? Did you like it?
I like it because if you were playing just alone, it would be really, really hard. But it's easier because you need to get a certain amount of stuff in some of the scenarios. So it's good to have everyone working together on the one thing, and I like just playing together.
Yeah, that's
Something
really
else I
fun.
want to say is that it would be really hard. Another reason is because sometimes if you're running low on an ingredient in the pantry, you can ask, "Can you please get this ingredient?" And spices, you can say, "Can you please leave some of this spice left because I have a really important VIP or challenging order to fill?" And you'd have to do every single thing on your own, which in the 8th level feels impossible.
Yeah, but that's beside the point. You do it on your own, but with the help of other people. Hey, I need that place on the stove. Hey, can you buy the stuff for me? Hey, can you get me some spices? Hey, can you leave some spices behind? Blah, blah, blah. I like you're doing your own mission, so to speak.
You're taking your own customers, but your friends are helping you with the spices and other things on the side for the ingredients and spices.
Yeah, and you just have to be careful when all the hands are reaching in. It feels very chaotic. And, you don't
And all
wanna
the
bump
timers
into each
keep
other.
falling.
They do fall.
Yeah, the timer's full all the
That's
time.
that's part of the game because if the bases were
supposed to
bigger,
make it
it'd be harder it'd be easier if the bases were bigger, but they made the bases small to
They
be
fall
so,
easily.
yes. So if you're reaching your hand to put your thing in the bread cellar, you probably, if you're using this hand, you're probably gonna knock over somebody's timer if they're in the pantry, and you're in the end.
So as you can see, we really enjoyed it. We had a great time. We think it's a fun family game. You can also probably play with your adult friends. I think it works very well. Some of the later scenarios, you could play it at game night only with adult friends, hardcore gamers. There is enough going on. It's fun, it's exciting. The real time really creates a sense of tension, right?
I kind of wish that you could play with more than 4 people, though.
I guess it would get really chaotic and really messy.
I wish you could play with 5 people.
Maybe there will be an expansion like that one day.
That would be extremely chaotic.
And I want more difficulty after I finish the entire game.
So, any final comments or remarks about what you liked and how much you liked the game?
I really like the game. It's real time, so if you're in the middle of the game and somebody asks you to do something, you're like, "No, I can't do it. Playing game." And in the real time, and you get to actually cook the things. I like how you actually have to. And in the first scenario, I don't like how it isn't really realistic, but in the other scenarios, it gets really realistic. You have to pay your workers, make money, get reputation, get spices, and get plates.
Thank you, Luisa. Final remarks? Final comments?
I really like this game because I like how chaotic it was when you're like, watch my time like a hawk, get this new order, work on the VIP order, we're running out of time. Ah!
That really
So
captures the
sad,
spirit.
so sad.
So, how about 6 big thumbs up from us? All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching our video review of Kitchen Rush.